Yes, Anjali, continue.
So the High Court considered the husband's offer, wherein he agreed to offer an alternative accommodation of a two-bed apartment in a similar locality, to be just and reasonable. And the court also held that until such arrangements were to be made, so the husband and wife would stay in the same shared household, and if they could not live together, then the husband would provide the amount of rent that the wife would need in mm, the the market rent of a two-bedroom accommodation of that sorts. And the court also directed that the woman would have exclusive rights to use the car or ask for maintenance and the educational expenses of the children they had. And the court also said that the wife could also obtain a protection order while she continued to live in the house with the respondent. So in a way, this judgment, according to me, was right, because in this case the husband himself was agreed to provide alternate residence. And also because the wife had the kind of settlement in which she had some properties in her own name. So
Mm-hmm.
the court was actually right in deciding this way, because the husband did not leave the wife stranded and homeless. He actually bothered to provide a household for her.
Mm-hmm.
This
Okay,
was my yes, ma'am.
I
right.
have a question.
Next one.
Ma'am, I'll present.
Yes, please. Mumal.
Astha.
Okay.
And before that, I have a question. In
Mm-hmm.
what Anjali discussed, it is said that the wife got a few properties by virtue of the settlement arrived at between the husband and the wife. So
Mm-hmm.
when she has got some properties from the husband, why did the court order to provide for maintenance?
Is it maintenance or is it the right of residence?
Ma'am, the court also directed that the woman would have exclusive use of the car and other matters related to maintenance
Of herself, of children?
and educational expenses for the children
Yeah.
would be determined by the magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, even after she has got certain properties, the husband would be required to provide the residence.
The circumstances must be such that the husband must have a lot more, and the maintenance and education expenses required for children may not be possible to meet up from that property. Suppose there are two rented, two properties which have been rented out perhaps, but we do not know. We do not know the other details of the case, but and it is to be determined by the magistrate. So if there will be an issue that yes, she still requires maintenance money, it will be given. If she doesn't require, it will not be. That matter has been left to be determined by the magistrate.
All right.
I mean, also that if even she has been given property, it is not necessary that those properties will able to that share or like incur the expenses of the children and the lady also.
Yeah, and also
Maybe they have
when you have,
the
and
nature of properties
also
also like.
properties also require maintenance. Properties are
Exactly.
not necessarily the money providing categories, depending on what kind of property we have, where we have the property. So certainly that's a matter for the detailed facts which the judge will take into consideration to determine what kind of, and if at all any properties, any maintenance is to be granted.
Even if he has given, so he has the judge has definitely seen the income of the husband. Then only he has given.
Yeah.
So the next point is right to residence in property belonging exclusively to in-laws. So this is a clear-cut conflict between the Domestic Violence Act and the Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007.
Mm-hmm.
As per Section 17, subsection 1, the right to residence can only be claimed against the husband and not the in-laws. And we can see that here the report has three judgments: Rajkumari versus Preeti Satija and another.
Mm-hmm.
Then Shumita Didi Sandhu versus Sanjay Singh Sandhu and others, and then Pal Singh and another versus Priyanka Singh and another.
Right.
All the three judgments have followed the ratio of Batra versus Batra case.
Mm-hmm.
But the Delhi High Court, in many judgments, have is reluctant to pass residence orders in favor of women where house belongs exclusively to in-laws and is not a joint family property. But also in some cases, Delhi High Court did not apply Batra versus Batra ratio and observed that there is no reason to conclude that the definition of shared household does not extend to a house owned by mother-in-law, since she encompassed under section 2Q, that is the respondent and aggrieved person conflict we had. And also the alternate accommodation can be provided if the woman is not to reside with the in-laws. Then there's a recent case of Vinay Verma versus Kanika Pasricha dated 29th November 2019. It also discussed about the maintenance to wife. So here, in few judgments, it was discussed that as long as the daughter-in-law has lived in the house, it is a shared household and no alternative accommodation is available. So she will be provided the residence in that particular household irrespective. But in other judgments, if the house belongs to in-laws exclusively, it would not constitute a shared household and her right would only be to seek maintenance. Then it is also discussed that Section 4 of Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, it is not required for the in-laws who have self-acquired property to provide for maintenance to the daughter-in-law. So in all, we have seen that the judges have followed the Batra ratio and have not provided for the right to residence in property belonging exclusively to in-laws to the daughter-in-law.
Right. And given our society and setup, what is projected at the time of marriage, हम अपने घर में रहते हैं, हमारे अपना ही घर है, अपनी property है, अपने घर में रहते हैं. That is one of the major considerations parents look at when they're marrying their daughter. Do they have their own household? So, but law says, oh, you'll have to find out now onwards, is it your property or your parents' exclusive property? So if you do not have a right, she will have no right of residence as per Batra ruling. Unless, we kind of take the other way around that because of the virtue of marriage, she is entitled to live there. So, okay, next point. Two 2.4, who is presenting? Domestic relationship with a blood relation and the right to reside. Anyone? Does anyone have an aunt living with you in your household?
No, ma'am.
Nobody has an aunt living?
No,
A niece
ma'am.
living, a cousin living? So nobody has looked at 2.4 in the report?
Ma'am, I will do it.
Good. Go ahead, Karthik.
So this is the case of Rafa Tara versus Taman Mirza, where the aunt is living with her nephew, and her aunt is the father's sister in this case. So the issue, although there is a dispute on the title of the property, but we are not concerned with the title of the property. So here we are concerned with the whether the Rafa Tara has the right to reside in the property or not. So in this, so as this act is about the woman, it's not it's about the protection of women. So Rafa Tara has filed an application for a residence order in her favor when her nephew has ousted her from the house. So so when the matter went in the court, the the court said that they all that although they live in the same house, but they are not in any domestic relationship because it has not been proved that they were living as a joint family. Based on this contention, the woman has not been allowed for her right to reside in the house.
Okay.
Uh, and it has been said that there is no other relationship between 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 Rafa Tara between Rafa Tara and Tamar Mirza. Means that there is no relationship of marriage, adoption, or consanguinity or marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Later on it has been discussed that what do we actually mean by consanguinity. And it has been told that the consanguinity means the relationship of the people who descend from the same ancestor. And since in this case the Tamar Mirza and her aunt both of them have in a way have the same ancestor, so it should have been the case where women should have been allowed the right to decide, but actually she has not been allowed. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so somewhere what we are looking here is that what is consanguinity. So they are looking at only the High Court has only looked at one person above the relationship. So the father and the Bua, they are two different persons. So they are not saying that, but for the grandfather of this boy and the Bua's father are the same person. And consanguinity is not like what we have said even in case of Sapinda relationship, we count up to 5 generations for men, 3 generations for women. Even then, they will find a common ancestor within that limitation also. But judge has just said, oh, they're not. Means how has the judge arrived at this conclusion that they were not related by consanguinity is not clear at all. And that is where the criticism of this judgment is. Great. So who's going next? Procedural issues, retrospective operation of the PWDVA. What happened here? Lieutenant Colonel V.D. Bhanot versus Savita Bhanot.
Ma'am, so in this case, so the aggrieved woman left her matrimonial home in 2005, and after having lived there with her husband since 1980. And in 2006 the Domestic Violence Act came into force. And after that, she filed for 3 things: protection, residence, and eviction, and residence orders. So the latter order was claimed to protect her right to reside in the matrimonial home. In 2007, the husband, who was an armed forces officer, retired. And in 2007, he filed an application for the wife's eviction in the magistrate's court. So the magistrate decision allowed the wife to reside on the first floor of their residence. And then in the alternative, the husband also was directed to arrange for 10,000 per month to cover all the rental costs and everything. Next, the wife filed an appeal in the Sessions Court, challenging the other arrangements and highlighting that her requirement that it was necessary that she should reside in her permanent matrimonial home. So this appeal was dismissed by the Session Court. The Sessions Court held that the cause of action arose before the act came into force, and that and in 2005 she's already left her matrimonial house. So in the separate proceedings in Delhi High Court in 2010, the Delhi High Court said that the matter could be decided under DV Act, and this would not amount to retrospective operation of the law. So after that, SLP was filed in the Supreme Court, in which the judges said that the High Court was correct in holding that the woman who was previously shared a household was entitled to reliefs, because even after she leaves, she was asked to leave the house. The she had the she had to suffer the effects of the disposition that she when she was asked to leave the house.
Mm.
And also in this particular case, the Supreme Court also said that after living for 31 years of after being in 31 years of marriage and having no children, she was faced with the prospect of living alone at an old age of 63 years without any proper residence, and she was left homeless and stranded. So the Supreme Court agreed that the past conduct of the parties, even prior to the coming of the Act, were relevant for passing orders under three sections, that is Section 18, 19, and 20 of the Act. So the court said that this case would fall under Section 3 of the DV Act, which defines domestic violence in wide terms. So the Supreme Court said that the husband was to pay rupees 10,000 per month, because and any other expenses, and also if the wife apprehended of anything that would cause danger to her, the Supreme Court also further modified the order that the High Court should include protection orders for the wife. So
what
in
is-
a way this
Yeah.
so in a way this court judgment is critical, because a woman, when she's disposed of her shared household at any time in the past, continues to suffer the effects of the disposition. And this brought DV Act that under the position that the relief granted cannot be seen as the retrospective operation of the DV Act.
Yeah, but they were saying that there are penal consequences and they will apply back to the incident. And therefore, in criminal law, we do not go for retrospective implementation of the law. What is the answer of that? Because when you look at the legislation, the criminal part of the legislation is only about the violation of the orders passed under the Act. So the orders can be passed only after the Act had come into being. And therefore, violation of that order, if at all it will happen after the order only. So therefore, for the criminal matters, it is not the relating back to the cruelty offense or the domestic violence action. It is the violation of the restraint order or the compulsion, whatever the order has been passed. So therefore, there is no retrospective applicability of that law also. I think we need to stop at this. And I'll suggest that all of you please read the remaining part. There are lots of very interesting points that they have discussed in this paper. Applicability of Limitation Act. They have this other, and the right to file the application without the intervention of the protection officer. Protection officer's report, not mandatory, is another point which has been covered. Then we have non-disclosure of pending litigation. This can be settled unless you disclose in the proceedings. Then we have these other headings, proceedings.
Maintenance.
Yes, ma'am. Under the DV Act cannot be quashed, which we have been doing under 498A. Then maintenance orders cannot be enforced through Section 31. So very good note, kind of interesting, a whole range of issues which have been raised under this legislation. What is the procedure to be followed in passing interim orders? And the Indian courts can exercise jurisdiction even if parties reside in a foreign country as the incident or domestic violence takes place in India. There's additional information there. So I will suggest to each one of you that please read the whole report. It's not even a full report, it's just a few pages of the report, which are kind of giving us a glimpse of the range of issues which has arisen. So with that, we are concluding our conversation on Domestic Violence Act. In our next class, we will take up the two readings. One is Janwadi Mahila Samiti case on Sati, and the other one is domestic violence in gay relationships. So, okay, please read. These again not long readings, but tomorrow we will look at these 2 readings. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.